Hey guys, so in today's video we are going to be talking about something that has gotten a whole bunch of airtime lately. And honestly, if you are anywhere interested in the beauty community, you were probably expecting this. I have had this video requested. I didn't know if I wanted to do it at first because there are so many videos out there about it, and I just didn't really know if we needed one more video on it, but a lot of people have requested it on my Instagram, so I figured I would do it for you guys because that's who I want to do it for. Today, we are going to be talking about the Subculture Palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I'm going to try to make this short, sweet, and to the point. I'm not going to include any swatches, just like my Jaclyn Hill review video. I'm not going to include swatches and all of that. I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys my opinions. I have played around with this palette and I've created a couple of looks out of it, and I feel like I have a pretty good idea of my opinion on it. It's one of those you either love it or hate it palettes. There's no in between, I don't think, which honestly, actually, I'm kind of in between. I'll get more into that. But a lot of people either love this palette or you absolutely hate it. It's full personal preference. It is what you're used to, I guess, and adapting to something that is not the norm. So we're talking about the Anastasia Subculture palette today. This is what the palette looks like. This is how it comes. It is that felt material just like the Modern Renaissance palette is. I have that palette and it is a top favorite for me. I do use it quite frequently and I absolutely love it. Here are the palettes. This is the Modern Renaissance palette, obviously, and this is the Subculture palette. Norvina, who is Claudia, who is Anastasia's daughter, said that if Modern Renaissance was day, then Subculture is night. They are, I believe, supposed to be kind of sister palettes, so you could travel with both and get completely different eye looks out of each one of them. So right off the bat, I'm not a fan of the felt packaging. I think it looks beautiful. I think it feels very nice, but it is not ideal. As you can see from my Modern Renaissance, it has gotten pretty dirty over time, and I don't know, I just think stuff clings to it and it just gets kind of gross. I'm a packaging freak, and the felt tip, it's not really my number one. When I saw this palette on Instagram, I definitely did a double take. It is not a color scheme that you see very often, so it did catch my eye. You are used to seeing more of the warmer tones because who doesn't love a good warm tone eyeshadow? I know, I sure do and can never have enough, but it is nice to have something different kind of thrown into the mix. You do have your warm shades in here, of course, but you also have more of the cooler toned shades in here. It's interesting. This palette I am actually kind of 50-50 on, which I think is very unusual. Like I said, I feel like people are either you love it or you absolutely hate it and you will never use it again. But me, I have played with this, and again, I did create this eye look, and I have created another one, which will both be up on my Instagram if you guys want to check out that eye look. But I have been able to play with these shadows, and I, again, love it and hate it. I really enjoy the warm shades, such as Dawn, Roxy, Fudge, and New Wave. I actually really do like. I tried to play with Untamed and Access, and I wasn't a big fan of those, and I think that's why I don't like this palette. Also, I have seen people play with Untamed and All Star, and it can get a little bit on the weird side when you mix those two. I don't know if because they aren't supposed to be mixed, but I feel like when you have a palette of colors, I feel like you should be able to mix and play with any and every color, no matter if they are opposites on a color wheel, no matter what should happen. I think that in a palette, I want to be able to dip into every single shade and use them all together and not have to worry about something going wrong with one of the shades mixing with another shade. As for Modern Renaissance, I have never had that problem. I have never dipped into two shades and they just did not go together, or they created a completely different color when blended together, and I feel like that's what's happening with Subculture. Nobody is denying that these are not very pigmented shades, and that was the whole point of Subculture, was that they wanted it to be very pigmented eyeshadows, but there is such thing as too much pigment, and I think that's where things are going wrong with this palette. This is Untamed and this is All Star, and these are what they look like separate. Mixed together, it's a completely different story. So these are what they look like blended together right here. I tried to do a good job of it, but this is where it just just looks patchy. I think All Star looks beautiful in this pan, and once you put it on the eye, it is nothing like that. I think it is a completely different color on the eye. I have seen so many people use this, and it is very patchy, but yet it gets darker in some areas, and then in other areas it looks very streaky. So that color, going into it, wasn't keen on using, and I honestly stayed away from it. But just swatching them, you can see the separation, I guess is what I'm wanting to say, in the colors, and they just don't want to blend together seamlessly. I think that's my biggest problem with this palette, and why I don't like this palette, is that you kind of can't use all the colors together. You can't seamlessly blend all of the colors together. There are colors that work better with other colors, and to me, I've never experienced that in another palette. I just feel like any color that I've picked up with any other color normally works, and they normally blend together very nice. This is a little bit of a different formula for Anastasia, I do believe, and it's new to people, and some people are saying that you need to adapt to the palette. You need to change the way that you're used to blending, and I don't know if I 100% stand behind that. I feel like a lot of people are set in stones in the way that they blend, in the way that they do their eyeshadow already. I know I have a certain way of doing it, and I don't think that I need to adapt my ways to a palette. Maybe that's just a selfish reason on my behalf, but I don't feel like I should have to, again, kind of adapt my techniques and my skills to make a palette work. I've never had to do that in the past with any palette, so this is, I think, why this palette is such a shock. It's because it's different than anything that's ever been put out before. It's a very interesting palette, and some of these shades that I really like are Dawn, Roxy, Fudge, New Wave, Rowdy. I have been able to create looks with. I have used Cube. Cube is what I use to highlight my brow bone today. It does give off that pink. It is a duochrome, so it gives off that pink finish. I actually really like that. Electric I used on the lid today, and I really enjoyed that as well. Adorn is the next shade that I want to dive into and really check this shade out. I have a love-hate relationship with this palette. I think I can get some really good looks out of it, but some of the shadows in here I definitely will stay away from because I'm not a fan of how they have blended and how they actually work. You do need to go in with a very light hand. Again, they are very pigmented shadows. Nobody is saying that they're not. So like I said, I'm not going to sit here and swatch them for you, but I will do something that is all over the internet already. There is a lot of kickback on these shadows. That is another thing that nobody is not talking about. Kickback is something that is not a big deal to me. If the shadow is pigmented and it blends nice, then I'll deal with the kickback, but this is kind of on another level. Let's go in with the famous one that everybody's been doing, which is Roxy. I'm lightly pressing this twice. If you are going to create eye looks with this and you are interested in it, you honestly need to press these shadows probably once. That is what I do, and I still even kick off some of the excess. So let's go back into Fudge. I hit it once, if you guys can see, and I did get some fallout in New Wave. And then the way that they blend, you do need to spend a little bit extra time and energy blending them out. Some shadows do blend better than others, and some get along better than others, so I don't know. It's a tough palette. Again, I kind of wanted to keep this short and sweet because there are so many reviews out there, but I did get requested to do this. So Subculture, I'm gonna give you guys 5 real quick opinions. Let's go. 1, very pigmented, almost to a fault. 2, a little bit harder to blend, more time consuming. 3, some colors do not blend together very well at all. They create a darker gray color. It's a hot mess. 4, kickback is hideous in this, and it gets everywhere, but you can still work with it, blow it away, be very gentle, go into the pan once, maybe twice. 5, I will not travel with this, to be honest. That's the 5th one. That is a doozy. This is a palette that I look at and would not grab with me to travel with, and that is something that is pretty big to me. That's how I determine if I really do like a palette or not. Last time I traveled, I only took the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette, and it was all I used. It was all I needed, and I was very glad that that was the only palette I took. But this is not something that I would travel with alone. This is not something that I would honestly bring with me to travel. There are shades in here that I just feel like I wouldn't use, and I can grab a palette that I would more so use any and every shade in it and know that it wouldn't give me any trouble. Sometimes this palette can give me trouble and I do have to start over an eye look. I do my eye makeup before I do my foundation, so it's not a super big deal, and I would definitely recommend it because of the kickback on this, or to put powder under your eyes after you conceal and set just to catch the fallout. I'm 50-50 on it, to be honest, which I think is weird. I know people are either one side or the other, love it or hate it. Me, I'm in the middle. I can make it work. Some of the shades I can make work and I can blend them out. Some of the other shades I just will not touch. I will not go for them. But it retails for $42. It is coming into stores on the 15th of August, and it is online, Sephora and Ulta right now. I think it's sold out on the Anastasia website. I will leave all the information for it down below if you guys want to grab it and try it out for yourselves. If you guys do, let me know down below if you like it, if you keep it, if you don't like it, or any opinions that you have on this palette. And let me know if there's anything else that you guys want to review. It means the world to me that some of you guys actually want to know and listen to my opinions. That is, I think, everything that I have to say on this palette. Make sure you subscribe before you leave and give this video a big thumbs up. Thank you guys so much. I love you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown.